Welcome back to the Green Connection. Last month we did the musical, which was a little bit different. But this is way different. I don't know whether you ever thought about it or not. I didn't until I read about the Blue Star art and fashion influencing each other. And so I began looking up things about fashion and art. And, Blue Star was doing an exhibit, and so I thought it would make an interesting show. And it's turned totally different. My guest was an artist, or is an artist, because the show runs through May the 6th, but he has a work in the show, but he has a surprise, which we'll bring on in a few minutes. My guest is Luis Valderas.
Hi, how do you do?
And he's an advocate for the Threadbare exhibits, and also something that you'll learn more about, and that's massa. So, tell me about the Blue Star. Well, actually, you're not a fashion versus art artist, but what did you put in that show?
Well, in the exhibit, the Threadbare exhibit, I've got my own spacesuit, which I created back in 2005, at the beginning of the foundation of what you're talking about, Project Massa. And I've also got a piece created by David, L.A. David, which is a cosmic outfit, tired three-piece suit, painted up in his cosmic designs. He's a local artist as well. And a photograph of me and the co-founder of Project Massa, Paul Karam, marching down Commerce to welcome the Museo Alameda.
So the first one was 2008. The massa is something we'll get into in a little while. Other art museums have done the Threadbare shows with art showing how it reflects fashion or they connect. And Metropolitan Museum was one of the, I believe, first museums, and I don't even know the date for the museum, for their show. But we have a video which will show you what happens at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, and the show was Threadbare.
There is the perennial debate about whether or not fashion can ever be art.
Thank you.
It has, in some instances, to do with intention, but just because it's clothes doesn't mean it can't be art.
The name of this tour is Fashion and Art.
Fashion is laden with cultural, social, aesthetic ideas, everything that we subject the criteria of art to.
What we do is look at the objects of art, masterpieces and highlights of our collection from a very interesting viewpoint. What are the people wearing in the object of art? And more than that, what does it mean? This is something almost nobody talks about, but sometimes it's 60 to 70% of the object of art anyway. So I hope that you will see fashion is not trivial.
When I started off as a curator, art was considered to be painting, architecture, and sculpture. Anything outside of that was decorative arts and, quite frankly, looked down on, costume and fashion being one example of that.
Our first object dates from ancient Greece. The basic garment was made by one long length of linen. The flax had to be picked, it had to be spun, it had to be woven by hand. And in war, the soldiers who were victorious would kill the men and capture the women as slaves to do the spinning and the weaving. So the fabric represents a great deal.
Fashion is still considered more in the female domain than something like painting. And I think that's the reason why some people are quick to dismiss fashion as art.
So we will move on to another culture altogether, another civilization altogether.
It's our role as a center of art and culture to give fashion and costume respect and attention.
Fashion should be recognized for how it defines a time, how it can be controversial, how it can be revolutionary.
So right now we are in Burgundian France, and these are courtiers in a rose garden. This is one of the earliest examples we have of cut and tailored clothing. With the growth of big, powerful courts, people began to want to outdo each other in a fashion sense. You are looking at the red carpet of 1450.
Fashion seems frivolous and trivial to the 19th century attitudes about fine art. There's a kind of puritanical tradition, and we hate the notion that there might be commerce associated with anything, because somehow that makes it less pure. But as the definitions of art have become more elastic, post-Dada, post-Warhol, we're no longer bound by 19th century categories of art.
In the world that we work in, you need the mixture of art and commerce. They have to exist hand in hand.
High fashion, paired with celebrity, becomes something bigger than both.
All right, we're going to finish the tour with John Singer Sargent. This is Madame X. People wanted the artist of the day to advance themselves, and the artist of the day wanted the famous people in order to advance their career.
The art of what someone wears is as important and as revealing an artifact as a particular portrait painted at a particular time.
Why did she wear this white duck skirt? One day she came in from playing tennis and her face was all flushed and her eyes were sparkling. But what we don't see is what it's saying about society. In the industrial world, when people were in factories all day long, it suddenly became a status symbol to have a suntan. So this dress shows a complete switch in values.
Fashion can be used to tell stories about gender, race, and identity, and challenge us to rethink what is beautiful, and challenge our prejudices and our expectations.
Everyone aspires to go higher in life, to be better than they are. And these moments in the museum give you moments of betterment. Escapism, yes, but this could be inspiring. This could inspire someone.
This is the achievement of having no delineation between what is high and low culture, what is right and wrong history.
Blue Star's Threadsbare, I didn't realize they had one in 2008, but Lewis told me that it was one in 2008 and the one running currently now. What do you think influenced you? First of all, let's say tell me what MASA is.
Well, MASA is the Mexicano Alliance of Space Artists. And really, it's a play on NASA, which is the National Aerospace Agency. We founded this group back in 2005. Me looking in the community here in San Antonio for artists that used outer space iconography and science fiction in their work to relate issues of social importance to them and to our people, having to do with society, with politics, with our families, with everything in general that Mexican Americans have to deal with navigating society in the United States of America.
So, you started out, you created it by yourself?
Yes, well, I started. I came to town about 22 years ago, and I established a small art studio at a place called Gallista Gallery, which is no longer there, and it showcased primarily and only Chicano artists, run by Joe Lopez, another very well-known artist here in San Antonio. And so I began to work the studio there, the gallery, and then I organized an art exhibit, a theme-based exhibit that was based on outer space, iconography, and science fiction. And so I started noticing that there was a number of Chicano artists that were using this idea. The whole raza cósmica phrase had existed since the 60s activist period of Chicano art. And so based on that, I began to organize an exhibit that brought together the Chicano artists of our community here in San Antonio that were using science fiction as a trope to relate issues of importance to us.
And so, MASA stands for
The Mexicano Alliance of Space Artists, which is a play on masa as well, which is the masa that we use
I
for
know.
tortillas.
I thought it must be
Uh-huh.
Mexican aeronautical space.
That would be wonderful, I know. But we're a collective autonomy. Kind of like a play on Monty Python, but we're loosely we talk to each other, and the different people in the exhibit, we're all a network of artists.
The exhibit at Blue Star now, and we've got a couple of pictures of that. I don't know if we want to show them or not. The barracks of Threadbare, how did that tie in with what you were doing with MASA?
Well, I think what's showing at the Threadbare exhibit is the suits and the outfits, and I like to call that cosmic couture. Now we know that couture is clothing made on the spot from very valuable items and materials that are hand sewn and done like that in order to create fashion, instant fashion. And with the play on cosmic couture, what we worked around with was the idea of using outfits and specifically spacesuit to continue within the outer space trope, and cosmic outfits to kind of reach out to the raza cósmica aspect of the activist arts in Chicano art, and then combine them using this idea of called rascuachismo. Art historian Tomás Ibarra Frausto coined this term, and this term has to do with the gathering of different items that have alternate uses in order to remanipulate them and rearrange them into something that we need them to be. So if anything, it's a parallel with couture, because couture is valuable items, valuable materials that are sewn and put together on the spot. And rascuachismo is the arrangement of that our gente have to put together by combining objects and materials that might not normally be used in order to solve problems that we have, in order to recreate our own reality so that we can use these to re-represent our own, and thereby empowering ourselves to be part of this community, of this place.
So materials are important in both the art and the fashion. Have you ever thought about fashion design?
Oh my gosh, I'd love to do fashion design. I know that there's different ways of doing this. I've seen artists that have their work printed on actual clothing that happens, and at one time I toyed with the idea of using some of my digital designs to create my own patterns and design clothing. But I've got so many things I'm doing. I'm also an art educator. I teach at Clark High School, and I've taught there for 22 years. So I teach the art program there. And a lot of the balancing back and forth that I have to do kind of puts me on schedule. I have to stay on a very specific schedule. Sometimes things fall off the schedule.
Well, then is MASA a non-profit organization, or?
No, we're a loose collective autonomy. It's just a loose collective of artists with very similar ideas. And what has happened since the foundation of it was that an art historian, Dr. Catherine Merle Watson, took up researching this and the whole idea of how Chicanos are using alternative realities to recreate and to make art. And she aligned this with something called Chicano futurism. And so she wrote the very first anthology of Chicano futurism, where she researched Afrofuturism, which is even an earlier incarnation of futurism, where African Americans have reimagined their reality by using science fiction. One of the musicians that comes to mind is Sun Ra, the 1930s jazz musician that reimagined jazz and melodies, and then with those impacted the future of so many other Afrofuturists as well. And then finally now, Chicano futurism, with what Dr. Catherine Merle Watson and Dr. Ben Olivo have organized. And so that's what has been the impetus to the Cosmic Couture and Project Masa as well.
I don't know whether they were showed the photos of the current exhibit at Blue Star, and I don't think the photos show some of the artist paintings that are now showing. What do you think these artists feel about fashion the way you feel about couture?
Oh, well, I can tell you for one of the artists is my mentee, Juan Escobedo, and he's recombining clothing with actual kind of landscape structures that he creates using cardboard. And these are kind of post-apocalyptic structures that also really represent the divisions between the castes, social castes, and the haves and the have-nots. And so that's one way of using fashion in the exhibit as a way of making a social-political commentary. In my case, I'm doing the same thing with the way I'm refashioning outfits. So the entire exhibit does have the way different artists view fashion and use it to create their own statements.
You have a very varied background. You teach, and I don't remember all of the things you do. What else do you do?
Well,
and you exhibit outside of San Antonio?
I exhibit outside of San Antonio as well, and I'm also a board member of the New York Foundation for the Arts. So as an organization, what we do is we provide professional development and funding opportunities for artists all over the nation. We've begun an expansion to be able to support artists from all over the nation right now. So I am the representative from the Southwest. So that's one of the things I do as well.
How do you have meetings? Do you have members? How do people do it? Do you have a passport?
I've got.
What's a passport?
I've got a Masaporte right here. So this is my passport into space and proof of galactic citizenship, and these were given out at Project Masa 5. The Secretary of Space allowed for a new release of Masaportes, passports into outer space, and they will also be Masaporte station at the closing of the Threadbare exhibit, which is on May the 6th at Blue Star.
So you can get a passport?
You can get a passport, and now if you go the extra step, yes. Well, if you go the extra step and you come in with your cosmic outfit or your spacesuit, then you have a chance to enter that into the open call. Because what we're also doing is we're creating an open call to everybody in San Antonio who can develop their own spacesuit or their cosmic outfit and come in and take a photo, so that we can create an exhibit sometime in the near future of just all the cosmic couture and cosmic outfits that came in for the Masaportes.
Do you have meetings?
No, we don't have meetings.
Well, I noticed that you had a contest for outer space fashion.
That's what we're talking about.
We have a couple of pictures of that also.
Yes.
Face of hats and a mask.
Well, as a matter of fact, There's kids participating in this from the Southwest School of Art Teen Intensive Studio Program. And those are some pictures right there of the teens, of our teenagers at Southwest School of Art, led by Kim Bishop, who is the director, creating their cosmic outfits and their spacesuits. And we're going to be marching in the King William Parade as well. And that's coming up, I think, at the end of the week.
Well, and your first venture into fashion design is the Masa spacesuit.
This is number 2 in the making.
Tell us about that.
Well, so this is part of my my new spacesuit design, and what I did was I took just common everyday objects and materials and fashioned them into the art piece and the spacesuit that I needed to have.
The eyes move.
They do. They're googly eyes. So this is a Dickies coverall. Back when I used to do welding, I wore this to work. And so I decided that this was the perfect representation for the Latino worker. Either you're a mechanic or you're a construction worker or a welder or something, you need to wear protective gear. And of course, I'm decorated, but not as much as the flight commander. We have a highly decorated flight commander.
Has it been NASA approved?
Oh, you know what? I think I'm just going to start my own interaction with Dickies and give them a call and see if they want me to design the spacesuits for them.
I would have thought you'd done that before.
Well, that's on my list. I've got this bucket list of things to do. But I thought I'd try this one out first. And then you were talking about googly eyes. My father used to be a mariachi. So I gave him a little googly eye mariachi kind of shout out. And so then this becomes more of the space mariachi outfit as well.
So how many members do you have? Do you call them members?
No, we're just artists. I think we've, for example, right now we have an art exhibit of 17 Chicanas at Centro Cultural Aztlán, and they're all part of Project Masa number 5, which is the 5th incarnation of the Masa series. And it's also Chicana artists dealing with issues of space and using the metaphor of outer space and how we interact with each other and how they're dealt with. And so that's what's going on right now. And we just finished the opening this past weekend on Thursday of last week. And now we're just waiting for the catalog release, which was tentatively scheduled for May the 4th. So May is going to be a very busy month for us, definitely.
I have what is this?
That's the logo for Project Masa number 5. Mars needs more women.
It says Mars needs more women. I think you need to coordinate this with NASA.
There may need to be a time.
You haven't contacted them yet?
I've sent them various letters. I'm still waiting.
I worked with them when they first started. I opened the Del Webb Clear Lake City community before NASA moved in. And so I got to watch some of the first astronauts with the guys that are guiding them. And I think you need to get in touch with them.
Definitely. I think there's a
Your helmet,
bright future.
The helmet is great.
Oh, thank you. I pimped out the helmet. Look at that.
You didn't make that.
No, I once again ordered from material that's already happening, and you use other materials to make it do what you need it to do. And in this case, safety stripes, and so that they can spot me out at night. Don't get run over or beat up or anything like that.
So what is your main purpose?
Our main purpose is to bring to the discussion ideas of how we have to navigate the spaces that we deal with. For example, the metaphor is you should wear my skin so that you understand what it is like to be Mexican American in America. So something as simple as being pulled over for driving while brown should not be happening in this country. Yet it does. It happens every day. It's happened to me before. And so that whole idea of wearing my skin so you understand what it feels like to be Mexican American is what is the underlying metaphor to Project Masa and to the Cosmic Couture.
Have you taken it outside of San Antonio?
We've taken it outside of San Antonio with Project Masa. We were part of this big exhibit sponsored by the Getty Foundation called Pacific Standard Time. And a large group exhibited at USC Riverside in an exhibit called Mundos Alternos. And that's the catalog that you see there. So Mundos Alternos was curated by a group of curators. One of the curators was Rob Hernandez, and he was the one who was in the archive collection that decided to begin researching and got the ball rolling on it. So now we're in 2022, and there was an exhibit at USC Riverside back in 2017, and then in 2019 there was the same exhibit traveled to the Queens Museum and to the Leslie Lohman Museum in Soho.
So it's like a traveling exhibit then?
Almost like that, yeah.
So how many are in that?
Oh my gosh, this other one that happened in Riverside was way larger. I'm sure there was at least 100 or more artists, but it was a comprehensive search done by Robert Hernandez and Tyler Stallings and Joanna Suspia of USC Riverside. And so they researched and they found more artists on top of the lists that I gave them for Project Masa.
And so you call these exhibits a project?
Well, each one has a different name. So for the one that happened in USC Riverside was called Mundos Alternos. And so that was the idea of taking that whole outer space science fiction mythology trope as far as artists that use work like that. And so it gathered together that. And I'm sure there's going to be more in the future. As a matter of fact, I know that Dr. Katie Watson is going to be updating the Chicano Futurist Anthology, and it's going to include the women artists in Project Masa 5 that exhibited, and hopefully we'll be able to gather a few more cosmic outfits.
We're going to have to close. You can learn more about Masa if you go to the Blue Star on May the 6th, and you can get a passport and get to see some of the fashion versus art. Thank you for being with the Green Connection. Things are getting greener, I hope. We have springtime now, so I hope you'll be having all your yards redone, recovering from the freeze. And think about Masa. It's really related to NASA. So have a happy week. Stay free.